the Aeneid, Book 2. We're in line 213. The snakes have just attacked Laocoon. And we're going to start in the middle of line 213. Et primum parve duorum corpora naturum serpens amplexus uterque implicat, et miseros morsu de pascitur artus. All right. Et primum just means and first. So they attack him, and this is the first thing they do when they attack. And first, parva goes with corpora in the next line. Remember, a body is corpus, and it's neuter, and so the plural is corpora. It's third declension. It's one of the tricky ones that it looks like masculine when you see corpus, because you see the us ending, but it's really third declension neuter. So parva corpora means small bodies. And duorum, after parva, goes with naturum after corpora. So we have an AB, synthesis, or interlux word order. And it starts with our two adjectives. Parva and duorum are the adjectives that describe corpora and naturum. Naturum just means like the things that have been born. So here it's sons because it's masculine. Instead of saying filiorum, we can drop down one syllable to use a word that'll make this line scan. So parva corpora is accusative. Duorum naturum is just genitive with the orum ending. And then serpens is our nominative, and serpens amplexus uterque are all nominatives. And then we get our verb in the next line in 215, implicat. The book, there's a number of these where it says amplexus is the middle form. Let me see if I can find in my notes. It's on the next page. Is it? Maybe it doesn't say it here. It says it somewhere else. The middle form is a Greek voice, so we have active and passive in Latin, and we have deponent, and that's sort of where the middle is in Greek. It's kind of deponent-y, that it's kind of passive-y and kind of active-y. It's in the middle. And that's all that means. Amplexus, just straight up deponent. So amplexus means having embraced. And uterque means both or each. And in the Latin, uterque always uses the singular. So in English, when we say both, we use the plural, but if we say each, we use singular. So if you say both hands are dirty is plural, you say each hand is dirty, and that's singular. So you might want to say each just to keep your singulars, because we have implicat, which is singular. So, but first, the small bodies of the two sons, the snakes, each snake, having embraced, intertwines. So, the accusatives we can take with amplexus. So each snake, having embraced the small bodies of the two sons, or of two sons, intertwines them and do a understood them for that. So basically, Laocoon has two children, and we saw the statue, and here is another. This is a famous statue that is in the Vatican. It was famous. It's very famous, even in the Renaissance. So the snakes attack Laocoon, and first they sort of get his sons. Et miseros morsu de pascitur artus. So de pascitur is still our verb, and the subject is each serpent. So it feeds on, and then miseros artus are both accusative. Artus is fourth declension, so it looks like it's not accusative, but it is. And morsus is an ablative, sort of with a bite. It feeds on the Miserable limbs. And we have to say, like, of the boys. So each snake is eating the children. De pascitur is deponent. We've had pascor, pasci, pastus means to feed. We get a few words from this. We get like pasta from the perfect participle. So pasta is stuff that you have eaten. Pasture is related to this. Like when we say we're going to put something out to pasture, it means like to feed it, for it to feed. And it's related to the word shepherd, which is pastor in English. Like a pastor is a religious leader, like a religious shepherd. So a pastor is someone who feeds the sheep or the goats or whoever. So if you can remember that for de pascor, it's to feed on something. So in each snake, having embraced the small body, feeds on their miserable limbs. All. In the next few lines, Laocoon, he's not dead yet. They've attacked him, but first they get his sons, and so he tries to save his children. So we have primum, and here we have post. So first, something happens. Afterwards, something else happens. So ipsum auxilio sub euntem actella ferentem corripiunt. The subject's still the snakes, but now we have a plural verb, corripiunt, they seize. So it's not each snake, but now both of the snakes are the subject. And then we have a number of accusatives. Ipsum, sube untem, and ferentem are all accusatives. And in fact, tella is as well, but it doesn't go with the same accusatives. Ipsum refers back to Laocoon. So he himself. They get the sons, then he himself, the guy we've been talking about, Laocoon, the only person we've named, they seize. And subeuntem and ferentem are present participles that describe ipsum. And the book will tell you too, auxilio is a dative of purpose, right, to help, which, poor Latin one, I always tell them, right, dative never shows direction and it never shows purpose, but it does both of those things, but only in really advanced Latin. Right, it can show dative of direction, but it shouldn't. But here's the dative of purpose. Again, another thing it shouldn't do. Sub euntem is sub, which is under, and then euntem is the participle of eo ire, to go. And sub euntem means not to go under, but to go sort of up from underneath. So it's really to go up from under is the idea. So you can say, they seized him going up to help. The sub as a prefix it kind of seems contradictory, but it can mean underneath or it can mean from underneath, upward. And here that's what it means, upward. So coming up to help and bearing weapons. And that's why tella is accusative, but it's not the same accusative as the rest of them. So he's grabbed something to help fight off the snakes, and he's going up to help his sons. Spirisque lignant ingentibus. Spiris is another word for coils. Like we've seen a few words for like twisting and coiling and rolling. And it goes with ingentibus, which is huge, ingens. And ligant is the verb. Our snakes are still the subject. Ligo, ligere means to tie. If you're musically inclined, like in band, there's a thing called a ligature, which is like the band that holds on the reed to the clarinet. And then we have things like ligaments, which tie your bones and your muscles together. They're the connective tissue. It's, I'm trying to think of another word. Okay. So, our snakes are they tie, there's this understood him, still from the previous line. They tie him with huge coils, like they tie him up as he's going to help his sons. Et iam bis medium amplexi, bis colo squamea circum terga dati, superant capite et cervicibus altis. So et iam, and now. Bis means 2 times or twice. I know we saw it at the very beginning, and we've seen it at least once. In a number, instead of saying 14 Aeneas, Virgil said 2 times 7, to say like 14 nymphs. Juno promised Aeolus if he would help get the winds to blow Aeneas off course. And in Italian, bis is how you ask for seconds at the dinner table. Medium here refers to the middle of Laocoon's body, so you could also translate medium as waist, like his middle part. And amplexi we've seen earlier, right, it means having embraced. So, and now having embraced 2 times his middle, like they've embraced it twice, they've gone around it. So he's sort of got 2 coils around him. Bis colo squamea circum terga dati. Here's where one of the books. I guess where there's all this stuff about like its middle. Okay. Circum and dati actually are one word. They should be one word, but they're separated, and terga is in between. So this is temesis, where you take a word normally, like postquam or circum do, circum dare, that's made out of 2 separate sections, 2 separate words that go together, and you separate them. So in English, a good example is like forever is one word in English, but it's really made out of 2 words, for and ever. So I said for frickin' ever. It's like that. So circum dati is really the participle, and having, well, there's no and here, so this is asyndeton. Having placed around their scaly backs, and they've placed it around his colo, which is his neck. Tergum, here's another one. We've seen back earlier when they were talking about the snakes. And colo, we get the word collar from, so your collar goes around your neck. So having embraced his middle twice, having placed their scaly backs twice around his neck, they do something else. So those were all participles, but we haven't gotten our actual verb yet, which is superant, which we have seen before, which, remember, means to be above. So to overcome or to conquer, or just simply to literally be in a superior position above something else. So I just pick overcome. So they overcome, and there's this understood him, right? They conquer him. And the book tells you this last part of this is their ablatives. And you can have them as ablative of means. So how do they overcome Laocoon? Or if you're taking superant as like the physical, they're above him, this can be an ablative of degree of difference. Sort of like, what's the difference in their positions? Usually with the degree of difference, you see a comparative word. You know, he's taller by 5 feet or something like that. He's taller by much. But they're above him by like their heads and their necks, which would be like a measurement. So capite is by their head. So either they overcome him and kill him, right? Overpower him. He's not dead yet. And with their head and their tall necks. Or that can just be how much taller they are. So caput is head. Cervix, which is where we get the word cervix in English, means neck. So you have like your cervical vertebrae, or the part like your lumbar and other, I don't know, your spine. But you know, there's different vertebrae in your spine. So you have like your C1, which is your cervical, vertebrae number 1, you have like your L1, which is your lumbar, which is down lower. Which is important. As someone who's had back surgery. I had an L4, L5 discectomy. They cut out the disc between L4 and L5. Anyway, serpents. All right. Ile simul manibus tendit dewellere nodos. Ile refers back to Laocoon. And simul, we've been getting a lot of like time words, like first this happened and afterward this happened. So simul here is like at the same time that they're, surrounding him and going around his waist and everything. So ile is the nominative. Manibus is ablative. We have tendit. Tendo, let me look up a good definition for tendo. To strive, it's kind of like to try. He strives to do something. So we have a complementary infinitive with tendit, which is dewellere, which is to tear apart. And nodos are knots. And it's like nodes in English. So that guy, at the same time as all this stuff's happening, is striving to tear apart the knots with his hands. Which is, kind of what's going on in this picture, that he's, grasping the snake and trying to pull it off, and then he's got the 2 sons next to him. Perfusus sanie vitas atroque veneno. So, perfusus is nominative, so it must describe Laocoon, but it means soaked. And Laocoon's not soaked, it's actually his vitas that are soaked. A vitas is like a headband. So the book tells you can do 2 things. You can say that perfusus is middle, so it's like deponent. Instead of saying having been soaked, you can just say having soaked his headband with blood and black poison. Or you can take it as an ablative of respect. Laocoon has been soaked in respect to his headband. So he is soaked because his headband is soaked because he is wearing the headband. So if his headband is soaked, he is also soaked. And that would be an ablative of respect. So you can take it either way. You can say, having been soaked in respect to his headband, or you can say, having soaked his headband, and make it deponent-y. And then you have some ablatives that tell you how it's been soaked with blood and dark or black poison. Veneno. Veneno is where venom comes from. Okay. So I really like this section, and it's kind of gruesome and awesome. Clamores simul horrendos at sidera tollet. So we have another simul. This is all like very evocative emotionally, like at the same time. This is all happening at once, kind of like chaos. And Aeneas is trying to describe this multitude of things that are happening. It's just like one action after another. So clamores and horrendos go together. Ad sidera just means to the stars. And tollet is our verb. Our subject is still Laocoon. So he raises up, which is tollet. Sort of like terrible, horrendous shouts to the sky, or to the stars. As one would. And now we have a simile that starts, and the book kind of gives you the first part of the simile, but it's an understood. It's just understood in the Latin. And Virgil doesn't give us the part. And there's a typo. It shouldn't be qualis. It should be qualis. And qualis usually goes with talis. As is one thing, so is another thing. And this is the second part of that simile. Mugitus means mooing, or like roaring, and it's the sound that a cow makes. In English, cows go moo. In Latin, cows go moog. So mugare is the verb to moo. So just like the mooing or the bellowing, and then Salcius and Taurus go together in this next part. Fugit's our verb, and it's actually perfect. We've had a lot of present tense verbs going on. And the next two are perfect. And then we're going to go back to present tense verbs. So just like the mooing, when a wounded bull flees the altar, and Salcius is wounded, et incertam excusit ceruque securum. So here we see ceruque again, right, the neck, cervix. Incertam and securum go together. Securum is an axe, it's accusative. And excusit is another perfect verb. So when a wounded cow flees the altar and it sort of like shakes off an uncertain axe from its neck. Okay, I'm going to go through this next part pretty quickly because I don't want the video to be too long, but it all goes together. So I'm just going to read from left to right, and then we'll put it together in a good English. But twin with gliding movement, temple to the highest, and then we have another word for certain, serpents flee. Gemini, Draconis go together, but the twin serpents, they flee to the highest temple, and the summit means like the temple on the top of the, every city is built on a hill in the ancient world, so that's easily defendable. And that's just what it's talking about, which is the temple of Minerva. And remember, the horse is an offering to Minerva, so this is sort of taken as a sign. And then lapsu is just an ablative with a gliding movement. And then our que here we'll take at the beginning. And patunt is they seek. The archim, which is the citadel. Of hostel, which is Siwai. Tritonidis is another name for Minerva, because according to some myths, she was raised by the god Triton, but not according to like the most popular myths about her. But so that's another name for her. So they flee to the highest temple and seek the citadel of hostile Minerva. And she's hostile to the Trojans. Minerva is particularly fond of Odysseus. She's the goddess of wisdom. He's clever as a fox. So they kind of go together. And so she was on the Greek side and not fond of the Trojans. So under the feet of the goddess, and under the sphere or sort of orb of her shield, they hide themselves. So when you say under the feet of the goddess, in a temple there would be a giant statue of her. So she's not literally there. Teguntor is passive, but it's really like this reflexive idea. They hide themselves instead of just they are hidden. All right.